one with wood. To the big tree in Fairfield, Iowa, you know who you are. Hi from New York. Standing in the fork of the small tree next to the swimming pool, I lean into the trunk and stay there. I may look green, but I'm not a cabbage, says my mother's cousin, humorously a little later, apropos something I can no longer remember. I may not look green, but I am. One with wood. And the big tree, the one in the middle of the garden, the one I can still see, still feel, still know, as if it were a brother. The tree that was treehouse, spaceship, palace, temple. The tree I would climb when I wanted comfort, when I wanted freedom, when I wanted space, when I wanted to be held but not constrained, relishing the distress of the adults who were afraid I would fall, so totally secure in my body and the nurturance of the tree I would not. And I never did. One with the wood, the green sap that rose in the tree was rising in me too. And I knew it, and I felt it, and I relished it, but not in the intellectual, articulatable way, in the way that when I was a child I saw fairies and they frightened me because I knew they were there and I knew what I saw. Dryads and nymphs, green men and trees that spoke, and still do sometimes if I get quiet enough and listen.
No one knows exactly how the dinosaurs got to Pacific Palisades. They were huge. Communities of family, multiple spouses, aunts and uncles, grandmothers and grandfathers, and generations of dinosaurs' progeny. They lived in burrows in the hard-packed earth in the cold and barren hinterlands until the spring thaw and verdant food supply satisfied their hunger and enjoyment of where they thrived through this season and into the winter burrows, and again emerging for the great feast in the springtime thaw. Yet one dinosaur ventured beyond through many seasons that became warm and that kept coming into the warm. There was a great river from that thaw, from the Santa Monica Mountains to the shore of the Pacific Ocean. One by one, the dinosaurs made their way through the seasons to the warm, giving way to warm, until they too arrived at the cool and clear river leading to the ocean, the river banks overgrown with plants and flowers and all manner of crawling and winged creatures, and the dinosaurs thrived on the vegetation until the day the meteor hit, and within days every dinosaur on the planet was either incinerated or poisoned, and all that remained were the boiling rivers that soon dried up, and the beautiful canyon became brown and dry until she started to regenerate in the rich pulverized earth and some of the magic from the meteor. Today, millions of years later, the people live in big houses on the canyon without meteor insurance.
Everything is water, from the water in our cells to blood in our vessels, river in their banks, and the wet blanket after rain. The smell of ozone in the cleansed air begs one to follow it, barefoot preferably, to feel the wet drops of water on the grass, or to step in the dark brown mud and squish it between the toes, to watch the butterflies come out to flit among the flowers as the sun dries off the earth. However, under the decaying leaves beneath the trees, the water is held in the dirt, providing moisture in the shade needed by fungi to spring forth, showing off their exotic colors and shapes.
There were only yaks above 9,000 feet, so we transferred all of our tents and bags and made our way up the trail. The air got thinner with every step, and at every point we knew we needed to drink, to stay hydrated, not to allow the lack of oxygen to shrivel us up and squeeze us dry. and intermittently squatting behind a rock to pee, at a moment's notice dashing for cover. No air the higher we went. The harder to light the fire, to heat ourselves by, and to cook our meals. The smoke wispier every day we climbed, but fire was lit, and the air never gave up. Air to breathe. Long days walking 10 hours at a stretch. The trail sometimes washed away from the monsoon season just ended, and adjusting our maneuvers to get to the other side of the river, where the bridge remained only in pieces. The third leg, the walking stick, anchored us in the water steps as we crossed, inching our way across the mossy, slipping log that straddled the current roaring below. The air even thinner as we scaled to the next camp, and yak butter tea at the highest village tasted rancid, but I drank it anyway, only to discover it was, and the air left my body faster than I could take it in. In the middle of the night, my body turned itself inside out to purge the poison to my system.
Everything is water. Flowing, light, strong, necessary. Everything is water. Mighty, destructive, deep, dark, endless. We are water. We forget that we are water, equivalent to the water on the earth. We think we're solid, form, matter, but everything is water. Gently rising from the mountaintop, trickling down the hills over stones, creating gullies down, down, and around, joining with other rivulets, forcing its way to the sea. No, not forcing. Water knows where it is going and doesn't force. We force because we forget we are water. We have to learn how to flow. Everything a water, creatively changing the landscape even when water is absent. Everything is water is prayer. When water disappears, we pray because we know we cannot survive without water. Everything, everywhere is water, sometimes fluid, light and airy, sometimes fierce and destructive. So we too can be light and fluid or stormy and forceful and destructive. Everything is water is hiding under the continental shelf, where nations are preparing to fight over it as the land heats up. Everything is water, is wet, is hot and dry. Everything is water, I say to myself as I drink another glass of water, dosed with minerals lacking in the water that runs through my pipes. Everything is water, I say as I pee in the toilet multiple times a day, my aging pipes slowing down their delivery. Well, if everything is water, why are we fighting over it? Because we soak the land in chemicals, and the water is no longer pure. Everything is water, we were told long ago, so we did not value it. We only value what is rare.
Air keeps me alive. It can be calming when I think to take deep, slow breaths, in with the nose, out with the chest. Asthmatic bronchitis. As a child, I had to fight for this breath many times, but I proved to be strong and made myself dizzy with relief. Do they call that hyperventilating? Breath can be the body's way of saying, I've had enough, or bring it on. I saw dust motes dancing like fairies in the air. It was fun to contemplate how they floated as free as I wanted to be, lying on the grass at eye level with a dandelion, both of us dry and spent in the summer sun. I would blow their little feathered hearts away. My breath was the wind then, and it was powerful. Walking home from my piano lessons, each Saturday morning. That man was a saint. I would sing at the top of my lungs, "Oh, what a beautiful morning." The air from my lungs expanding as loud and as far as I could make it go. No one was around. The world was mine. My air resonated so that even God could hear.
Everything is water, oozing over the edges. Everything is water, contained within the edges. The dry cloth rubbed over a wet surface becomes a wet cloth. The hand rubbing the dry cloth that became a wet cloth becomes a wet hand. The skin of the dry hand that became wet pulls in the moisture, which joins with the flow of moisture, water on the inside of the skin, joining with the flow of water throughout all the systems of the human body. Everything is water. As we breathe out droplets of moisture from what once was a dry cloth that became wet and entered a dry hand that became moist, pulling the water into the bodily systems, now being expelled into the air, rising and flowing as humidity or frost. The temperature does matter, yet it is water. Everything is water. The water that was breathed out in our breath, mingling with the water in the air, rising high into the clouds. Collections of water on high pours as rain onto the surface we note has become wet as we reach for a cloth to wipe it up.